Response.
A trade war with America.
What does it mean for the rest of the world?
China has been
The Chinese recovery isn't.
China's banks face mortgage losses of $350 billion in a worst-case scenario. The confidence plunges in the nation's property market, and it is quite unfortunate that authorities struggle to contain its deepening the turmoil. As a result of this, it poses a threat to financial stability in the world's second-largest economy. The homeowner boycott currently affects U.S. $145 billion in mortgages, according to Standard & Poor's. This amounts to 2.5% of all mortgage loans worldwide. For this reason, the rating agency predicts that it could blow out to around 6.4% of China's mortgage loan book. Now you can begin to wonder how over 1,000 victimized owners of unfinished building projects in Xi'an, China, surrounded the Shaanxi Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission to protest that they no longer wanted mortgage payments. In this video, we're going to be looking at these mortgage issues facing China, so watch the video till the end because it will be interesting. Now, Chinese citizens across the country look to social media to push for a movement to stop paying mortgages on their homes in an attempt to put pressure on the CCP and banks to treat them fairly. Surely this kind of protest has never been done before. Some would-be homeowners protests broke out in multiple cities, and the crusade seems to be gaining more and more momentum each day. The CCP looks very worried that it's already sent out tanks to maintain stability. But let's take a look at this. The standoff between developers and home buyers represents a crisis in confidence. Sounds funny, right? Even though the current threat to Chinese banks is contained, the mortgage strike is weakening the strongest pillar in the Chinese economy, and it is hitting a sector that accounts for 29% of China's economy. Standard & Poor's primary credit analyst Yuan Zhang writes in a report, if there was a sharp decline in home prices, this could threaten financial stability. He continues, the government views this as important enough to roll out relief funds to address eroding confidence quickly. China is now on the verge of launching a fund backed by as much as $44 billion in capital. This is to ensure that property developers complete their already started projects. The fund would initially be set at $12 billion, which will be with the backing of the Central People's Bank of China and the state-owned China Construction Bank. Now, where the major problem starts here is that companies like Evergrande wouldn't usually use the money from the sale to start construction. They will instead use the money as a down payment to buy even more land so they can sell more apartments for the future. Any biased person can easily look at the system and figure out that the system isn't going anywhere. It's more like a pyramid scheme. This is exactly what the CCP is to be doing, but instead of that, they passed on the responsibility to the local governments. Local governments were benefiting from these companies a lot. This doesn't seem right. Well, one of the significant ways local governments make money in China is by leasing land to developers. This means that the more risk these property developers take, the higher the bids on this land that the government leases out. You can imagine that around 50% of the local government's revenue was from leasing out land. Do we even have to get into the corruption that goes on around these land leases? These issues were the main reasons China's real estate bubble had gotten so big. Even regulators were always slow to step because it directly benefited them. The CCP saw where things were heading and tried to get things under control by implementing policies for property developers. But it was rather too late, and this worsened the debt burden. The People's Bank of China currently aims at backing China Construction Bank with money from its relending facility. If the plan works successfully, the central bank will also back China's other major banks. This could be a great move. However, the initial size of the fund may not be enough to stimulate the property sector. Such a property fund would likely need to be part of a broader support package. Although Beijing has resisted calls to provide direct stimulus to the economy, the Chinese government is trying to curb housing prices. They also want to force deleveraging on the home building sector. You should be aware that confidence in rural banks in China is reeling after several runs in Henan province. Depositors caused a run on the Henan banks in April after police said they had opened an investigation into Henan New Fortune, the largest shareholder in 4 Henan banks. The police even accused the Henan fortune owner of defrauding the banks by giving out false loans and illegal transfer of funds. Remember, last year when the Evergrande news came out, the CCP was strictly against bailing out failing companies as they didn't want to promote risky business behavior in China. However, they now realize that this issue has the potential to tank the government. This reason made CCP officials change their tone regarding bailouts. The CCP is also focused more on censoring around these issues with the hope of restricting more people from joining the protests. We have earlier discussed that the CCP sees the situation as a political protest, not a banking crisis, right? Well, that's what government officials are extremely fearful about, how this might turn out. If this boomerangs, it will become even worse than it currently is. But we believe they will try all their possible best to curb any further disaster. And that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, do well and subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.